Welcome back, everyone, to the seasonal wrap-up show, and it is finally time to dive into the summer 2024 season. But we're going to be doing things a little bit differently than we normally do them. Normally, we do like this whole random thing, but I realized there are over 50 shows in the summer season. And that's a lot. So instead of waiting for the entire season to end proper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 8 shows up at the top here, which are all OVAs, movies, and other shit that have already finished. Like, this is the start of September that we're at right now, and I'm just going to go through all of these in order, ending with Season 3 of Kimi no Todoke. So we're going to start with Be Forever Yamato, Rebel 3199, which I believe, based on the title, is a remake of Be Forever Yamato, the very famous anime film. I watched the first OVA series of the Yamato reboot, and I liked it a lot. I watched the sequel, and I didn't finish it, so I'm just going to jump to Be Forever and see if it works. Okay, that was kind of everything I was, and a little bit of what I wasn't expecting. Just watch what is currently out of Yamato Rebel 3199. I should have specified in the first bit that only the first 2 episodes of Rebel 3199 are out right now, and I think the next episodes are coming out in like 2 months? And it's like, they're doing it like 2 episodes at a time. I have no clue how many episodes there's going to be. So this will probably be the last one that I do for the seasonal wrap-up show until it's finished. Whenever that is. But, so, not really sure why I even decided to do this for the seasonal wrap-up show, because it's not going to chart this year. But, I guess I just wanted to talk about Space Battleship Yamato for a bit. I watched the first series of the reboot from 2012 like a month ago, I think. About a month ago. Surprised at how much I liked that. It was a very simple and straightforward space opera with some decent character drama and some really cool action scenes, courtesy of Studio Xebec. If you're not familiar with Xebec, it's probably because you're a newer anime fan. They are a much older studio that went defunct a few years ago, but were rebirthed as Studio Mother, sort of. A lot of the staff from Xebec formed Studio Mother, who are now handling Space Battleship Yamato. Specifically, they're the ones doing Rebel 3199. There was like a gap. I'm not sure if it was with both sequels or if it was just the OVA sequel for these things where the series got handed off to Satellite. So now it's back with Studio Mother, the old Xebec crew. And you know what? The first few shots of it definitely show that there is like some care put into some of the finer details of stuff. Some very interesting, very detailed cuts of like pouring tea and just like some hand movements that really catch the eye. The character designs and like some of the eye features and facial features are very striking. So on the visual front, it definitely pulls you in. It's still got the really cheap-looking CG battles that aren't particularly great, but the way it makes up for those is by doing stuff that's just really fucking cool. Like, in particular, in this series, in episode 2, they just you go like full shields up and just ram into another battleship to blow it up, which was admittedly really fucking cool. So, on the visual front, I really don't have a lot of complaints. It looks just as good as the first of the sequel, the first of the reboot series, I should say. I should specify, I have not seen any of the original space battleship Yamato from the 70s. Have not seen any of that. I read the manga, which honestly I didn't like very much, because it just felt very plain and just not... It didn't... Compared to other Matsumoto works I've read, like Harlock and Queen Emeraldus, Yamato didn't strike... The manga specifically didn't strike me as particularly interesting. But the anime was actually really good. Again, I'm talking about the reboot. I have not seen the original series. But now, specifically about Rebel 3199, and it's interesting to just jump past some sequels just to get to this stuff, because it's like, I think I got halfway through these sequel series, Warriors of Love. Did not think that was good. I think I got to around episode 10 or 11 or so. And I was just like, I'm just gonna jump to this one, because Be Forever Yamato, the original movie, I know is like an iconic movie. Specifically, I know it's an iconic movie because I read The Men Who Created Gundam, and they were very intent on replicating the success of that with Gundam. So I know this is like a landmark kind of thing. Maybe I should just go back and watch that movie and see how it goes. Although, if the sequel series is replicating the story faithfully, not sure if I want to do that. Because, like, look, the show is good at making, sort of this angsty drama kind of angle. I really appreciated a lot of the stuff they did in the first series. Not so much in the second series. And this show has a habit of just saying, hey, what if we just remove Yuki from the crew of the Yamato? What if we just do that? Now, hopefully, this series doesn't do what Warriors of Love did, that maybe drop it and just completely remove her from the fucking show. I did see her show up in like the next episode preview, but it's really annoying that it's like, if I had a nickel for the amount of times that Kodai and Yuki were going to board the Yamato, going to get board a ship to go to board the Yamato or whatever, and then something happened that separated Yuki from Kodai, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Or should I say, it's annoying that it happened twice. Because I actually like Yuki quite a bit as a character. I think she's one of the more compelling female leads of classic anime. Well, technically, it's a reboot of classic anime. I'm gonna stop specifying that. You get it. So, hopefully she has more to do in this series than she does in Warriors of Love. Yeah, aside from that, I really don't have a whole lot to report, other than I did appreciate when they played the OP in the second episode. They're just like, here is the timeline of everything that's happened so far, because we know you skipped some of these sequels. And it was quite a bit of help. I did have to rewind a couple times, because boy do they blaze through that timeline. But I think I got the bare bones of it all and figured out what happened. Like, they lost the original Yamato, and then the Yamato came back, and Gamulus got destroyed, and there's a new threat. Iskander is gone. So, this new threat feels very... If if the Gamilens were very not Germany, the Z, it started with a Z, I forgot what they're called. The new enemy feels very not Soviet Union. At least in terms of like the aesthetics. So we'll see how it goes, I guess. I'm gonna say I'm not lost. It hasn't lost me yet. But I think I'm just gonna hold off on recording my thoughts on it until all of it is out. Okay, done with Rebel 3199 for now. I'm just gonna move it to like the very bottom of the list here. Not even gonna bother doing the color change or anything on it. But let's move on to the next show, Rising Impact. I believe this is a golf series on Netflix. Haven't heard anyone talk about it at all. Let's check it out. Alright, I think I got my fill of that one. I got like 2/3 through the first episode of Rising Impact. It's totally fine. Just very average sports series so far, at least sports origin story so far, except this one's about golf. We've been getting a lot of golf anime lately. I say a lot in that there have been 2 in the past 2 seasons. There's this one and Tonbo. I think this one's better than Tombo in that this is just a very bog standard, looks like it's going to be a very bog standard average sports series. And it's going the route of the Child Savant sports series, but Child Savant in the fact of like he has been doing this other thing his whole life, and that skill just magically coincides with being a really good golfer. In this case, it's swinging an axe and cutting down a tree, which is very campy and fun. Or I guess it would be campy and fun if the presentation was a little stronger. It's not bad by any stretch. It's perfectly average looking. But not a lot of like really cool visuals aside from the golf swing. And I can tell I'm going to get annoyed with this main character really fast just because of the over-exuberant voice acting, which is a shame because this character is voiced by Misaki Kuno, who is also the voice of Faputa in Made in Abyss, among many other roles. But I don't see myself watching 2 cores of this. It's fine, but it's just not holding my attention. Yeah, I guess I should have known that this was based on a weekly Shonen Jump manga. That makes perfect sense. And it started like right around the time of Hunter x Hunter, looks like. So, yeah, definitely feels like a Jump series, but not quite good enough to hold my interest. Rising Impact is done. Now we're going to move on to Suicide Squad Isekai. The only thing I know about this one, aside from the fact that it's about Suicide Squad, is that Mori Calliope did the ED. So I know at least I'll like that. As for the rest of the show, let's give it a shot. Well, I must admit that show was almost tolerable enough to finish, but no, did not finish. I got, surprisingly, 7.5 episodes into Suicide Squad Isekai. Also, I have decided to retire the Isekai bell because the bit has gotten old. But where the fuck do I begin with this show? I don't like using the phrase, like, dumb fun a lot because it's most often used as, like, an excuse for bad writing. But that's kind of how I felt about, like, the first couple episodes of it, is it's really fucking dumb and not, like, cool in terms of, like, the writing, but it is fun to a certain extent. Now, I'm going to be honest, about 90% of that fun is Harley Quinn. Like, unironically, I think this is, like, one of my favorite Harley designs that I've seen. It's a great blend of the old, like, classic animated series design with the red and black with the more modern kind of punk design that they had with the Margot Robbie version. It's a nice blend of those two. And I think the animators had a lot of fun animating Harley. She's got some really great anime faces. Her voice acting's really good too. It's super fun. Like, there's this one shot in the ED where she just looks fucking zooted out of her mind, and it's like that. It looks fun. They had a lot of fun making Harley, which, good call, because Harley Quinn is such a massively popular character. Weirdly enough, the Joker's voice acting was fucking terrible. Well, no, the voice acting wasn't terrible. The voice casting was terrible. Like, I don't think it's Takahiko Koyasu, but it sounds like someone who sounds like Takahiko Koyasu. And that is not how the Joker should sound. Like, I don't know who played the Joker in Batman Ninja, but that's way closer to, like, a good Joker voice. So, yeah. But, so, like, anyway. Harley, great. Love it. And then, like, that was 90% of the appeal for me, which I ended up breaking a lot of my rules for watching anime with this show. Is don't watch a show where the appeal is solely based on one character, and don't watch a show just for the action, because that's the other 10% of this. Is the action can be really good. It's not always. There is a lot of parts where everything just completely this show breaks. The animation for this show breaks in a very interesting way that I'm not sure I've really seen before. Like, it gets melty in an interesting way because there is a lot of emphasis on Sakuga in this show. Perhaps a little too much emphasis. Because, like, the action scenes, like, the Sakuga is always good, but it's like the other parts of it that break down. Like, the compositing will break down, or, like, the actual layers of the animation will not look like they are on the same plane of existence. Not even, like, beyond a compositing issue, just in terms of, like, how they are moving in relation to each other. It doesn't look like they fit. Sometimes sometimes the editing is just really fucking bad. Like, just some of the cuts are not good. One of the, like, another side tangent. I'm as you could, probably tell, hold on, let me grab it. I'm a big Mori Calliope fan. And she did the ED for this one, Go Getters. And I've been listening to that song quite a bit before this show even came out. It's a fun little poppy kind of song. But the ED is, like, really weirdly edited, but
I'm sorry, back up. Even before that, she just put out, well, as of me recording this, she just put out a full music video for Go Getters, which is the ED. And I watched it, and I was like, this is really bad. Like, it's bad as a music video. Like, the cuts are bad. The shots are bad. There's a lot of stillness that looks really awkward. And then I started watching this show, and I watched the ED. I'm like, huh. The ED for the show has the same problems as the music video. Which is no surprise considering that they were made by the same person. So I think I can definitively say that I'm not a fan of this guy's work. I saw a bunch of other credits that he did, and I can't off the top of my head think of what they look like. Like, I think he did one of the EDs for Psycho Pass or something. Whatever. But this show breaks in, like, the most interesting ways. I shouldn't say most interesting, but it breaks in ways that I'm not used to anime breaking. It's so odd. But the biggest reason why I'm dropping this show is because when Harley's not doing something insane and fun, the show is so goddamn fucking boring. It is boring and dumb and lame and just downright inconsistent. Like, so one of the ways, so the second, like, big fight in the show, or I don't know, whatever big number, this fight in episode 7, so it's like, the Thinker is controlling a bunch of elves through brainwashing, and Peacekeeper gets this idea of, like, he's like, okay, so we've learned that all of the elves share the same, like, perception and, like, sensory intake, so I'm just gonna torture one of them, and that will drive all of the other ones insane, which might make sense if not for the fact that they had a fight like an episode ago where Harley was just bashing people's brains in with a bat, and Deadshot was like shooting them. They were already inflicting pain on the elves before. Why didn't that pain get transmitted across everyone's senses, but the tortured one did? Makes absolutely no fucking sense. So, on the one hand, yes, the fights in episode 7 look really fucking cool. I really liked the Harley v Katana fight. That was actually an incredibly well choreographed fight. Fucking loved it. But it's all founded on bullshit. Everything about this the way this show works is bullshit. Most of the character motivations are kind of bullshit. The world is not an interesting world to like see these Suicide Squad characters interacting. The Queen is just fucking nonsense. The politics of this world don't make any goddamn sense. It's just so... The not fun is... Like, as the show progresses, the not fun keeps getting in the way of the fun more and more. So... That's why I'm ultimately dropping this show, I guess. It's like, even if I had finished this show, I probably would not have given it a good rating because it's fucking stupid. And I'm watching it purely because of Harley. So, I don't know, man. I feel like I had something else to say. Oh, there's this really pithy, like, incredibly tropey, cliche way of, like, drawing a parallel between Harley and, like, the princess of this world, where the princess is, like, this very shy, very demure, whatever that fucking meme is, very soft-spoken, princess who doesn't speak up for herself because of her domineering mother, and then you have Harley, who is Harley. And so it's supposed to be like Harley is getting this princess to come out of her shell and speak her mind. And that'd be really cool if the princess had any fucking characterization outside of what I just described. She's so lame. Oh my god. Ugh, I don't understand how you can, like, I'm gonna sound like a fucking dumb chud when I say this, but it's like the plot gets in the way of the fun. Okay? Like, I don't know what the ultimate plan is for the plot of this. I don't care how this resolves. But they should... Because, like, I was able to be okay, not with the massive plot hole of the elf pain thing, because there was a bunch of other fun shit happening at the same time. What I'm not okay with is when there's just this fucking languid, slow-ass, completely torturously pulled apart plot, or stretched out plot of this fucking... the way that the Suicide Squad relates alliance-wise to this kingdom of just this constant... just they manufactured a conflict when they didn't have to. There was plenty of ways for this alliance to be full of conflict, but they picked the most manufactured ways to do it, just because I'm pretty sure the Queen is ultimately evil somehow. I don't care how. Also, the plot is, like, starting to just repeat itself. It's like, with Ratcatcher, it's like, the reason he was able to manipulate the Beastman is because he had this magic staff, so they broke the magic staff, and then he was defeated. And then it's like the Thinker. He was able to brainwash the elves because of his fucking thinking caps thing, so they had to neutralize that. They just repeated the exact same plot point. Now, like, it sucks. Why do you have to get in the way of fun? I'm just happy that the Joker wasn't in this very much, because I feel like they would have fucked that up immensely. At least the Harley stuff was cool. Okay. Suicide Squad, Isekai, off the list. Up next is The Imaginary, which is some kind of movie. Have not heard a single person talk about it. No clue what it could possibly about. It looked like it might have been an all-ages movie or a kids movie or something. Let's find out if I'm right. Okay, we've already hit the point in the seasonal wrap-up show where I've watched something that justifies my entire neurotic obsession with watching every single anime that comes out every season. And we're only 4 shows in. I just watched all of The Imaginary. This is a 110-minute film from Studio Ponoc, which, if I recall, is formed by some ex-Ghibli animators. I know the director is ex-Ghibli. He's done a lot of like some of the more iconic Ghibli films. Like he worked on Spirited Away, Kaguya-sama. Apparently he directed the Ghiblis, which is like a 2 short episode thing. But anyway, I was a little skeptical as to whether I was gonna finish this one or not, because it seems like it's pretty apparent that this is meant for a fairly young demographic. Like I'm thinking like the under 10 crowd, but you know what? I watch Pokemon and Precure, so I can't really throw stones in that direction. And then the kid got hit by a fucking car. So, by the way, if you haven't tuned into the seasonal wrap-up show before, I do spoilers on everything unless I specifically want people to not know something. But yeah, so this is this is also based on a children's novel from 2014, I believe. It's like a British children's novel. And you know what? I actually kind of like British children's lit and stuff, at least some of the stuff that I read. Like, I like Roald Dahl stuff. It's certainly not in that vein, but it is definitely, the whimsy is definitely on display. And the plot is kind of like, kind of similar to Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends in a sort of way. Well, mostly in that it just is about imaginary friends and sort of like the relocation of them if they get forgotten by their owner. We got this big villain character, Mr. Bunting. Such a British name for a villain. Mr. Bunting. It's so whimsy and fun. It is, but again, it is definitely for a much younger audience. Like there are definitely there were a lot of moments where it was kind of, it's the look at all the wacky shit going on, look at the camera kitty, look at the camera kind of moments where it's just colors moving around on screen in fun ways. So might not be great. So that those parts aren't particularly great for an adult audience, but you know what? I think this movie has some legs for all ages in some ways. It's got a lot to say about, well, not a lot to say. It's got some stuff to say about like the power of imagination and how it helps children through dark times in their life, with how the imaginary friend, the main imaginary friend of the film, Roger, I think that's how you pronounce it. There's a ongoing joke about it. No, it's not Roger, it's Rudger. Where like he is sort of a reflection of his friend Amanda's father who died. So there's some interesting like talking points about like grief and just getting through the day-to-day of life through the power of imagining friend. Now, I'm curious, for those of you who recall having imaginary friends, were they like wacky and like whimsically non-human? Because most of the time when I had imaginary friends, I would either imagine just a person, or I would imagine like a character from a TV show. So perhaps I wasn't particularly creative, but I wouldn't imagine like a talking hippo or a phonograph with legs or anything like that. I wouldn't imagine like Foster's Home style imaginary friends. But that's just me personally, I guess. But I would definitely be curious if any of you have ever imagined stuff like that. But there is definitely a lot of creativity with the designs. I do like, one of them is just sort of like a little munchkin kind of skeleton. Just a little short boy. He just hangs out. Oh, there was some like egg characters that I thought were pretty cool. I like the designs of this show. There is for I keep saying, I always say show when I'm talking about stuff, even though this is a movie. I really like the designs of this film. For a film about imagination, it's good that they got the imagination part right. And like all these like imagination adventure sequences that these kids go on, I thought were very stereotypical, but brought to life in a very fun and vibrant way. This is a very nice film to look at, which, thank God, it looks like film quality animation. We are getting film quality animation with this. This is not it's TV animation, but just longer. This is, as it might suggest from a bunch of ex-Ghibli people, this is a very fun, very good looking film, very fun to look at, very vibrant, very just interesting to see the different flourishes of the animation. Especially with like the Mr. Bunting and the way his mouth sort of transforms when he tries to eat imaginaries. The motion of his mouth is very Ghibli-esque. Like, it's something like you would see in like Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle. It definitely reminded me of that. Sorry, I'm a little tired. There aren't any characters that I particularly like really like. But I think they're all pretty serviceable as far as like the thrust of a imaginary adventure kind of film. And you know what? The film, it's not like all twee and happy all the time. Again, as I mentioned at the start, the main like human girl, Amanda, gets hit by a fucking car. Probably like 30 minutes into the film, somewhere around there. And so a lot of the film is just her imaginary friend Roger just wandering around doing imaginary friend stuff and trying to get back to her. And some of the stuff about the ending felt a little awkward in like their implementation. Like, there was like one moment of like, you know, in the anime where characters are just standing there when watching something happening instead of doing something about the thing that is happening. There was one moment like that where it was like, fucking help him! Get up! Go help! And the ending's not like entirely explained. Like the way that Mr. Bunting is defeated is, I'll say it's satisfying in its symbolism, in that this imaginary friend who's been traveling around with him, who I presume was one of his early imaginary friends or something, feeds herself to him and causes him to like kind of collapse on himself. And I do like this. It's like this very grudge-looking kind of imaginary friend girl. Just this very like haunting, very pale-skinned, creepy girl that delivers some of the more abstract and haunting imagery of the film. So the film does have a little bit of an edge to it. I'm just rambling all over the place about this film. It is, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the nature of how I talk about this stuff. Whatever. Yeah, see, I feel whenever I complete something, I feel obligated to talk about it longer than I do with shows that I just drop. But I feel like I got the brunt of what I want to say across about this film. It's very vibrant. It's very fun. Definitely very kid oriented, but I think there is something here for adults. I think the arc of the Amanda and her mom sort of coming together at the end after having sort of an emotional separation at the beginning of the film was pretty satisfying. Some of the stuff about the ending's a little wonky, but it's fine. Yeah, this was a fun film that justifies my neuroses about trying everything. This is not an immediate like go out and watch it, but if you want to throw something on for your kids, it's on Netflix. I didn't watch it on Netflix because fuck it. Or if you just want to if you just want to watch some fun, whimsy-ish kind of kids movie, give it a go.
All right. The Imaginary is complete. That's actually the first anime of the summer season that I complete, and I'm gonna put it just under Gushing Over Magical Girls with a light 7. Fun times.